Christopher Kennedy, Lawford, born. March 29, 1955, was the eldest and only son. Imagine your childhood, Marilyn Monroe teaching you the twist in your living room. Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack as family friends. That was Christopher's world, an unbelievable mix of Hollywood glamour and DC political might. His dad, Peter Lawford, was a movie star. His mom, Pat Kennedy, the sister of a future president. He was, by his own admission, born into enormous privilege. But this gilded cage was also a place of profound public heartbreaks. He was just 8 when his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, was assassinated. He heard the news at school. Then, less than 5 years later, his uncle Senator Robert F. Kennedy was murdered. Christopher was 13, and he later said RFK's death was a deeply damaging moment. Add to that his parents' divorce, and you have a childhood under immense pressure, way too familiar with adult complexities for someone so young. His very name, Christopher Kennedy Lawford, was a constant reminder of this heavy legacy. Academically, Christopher had a winding path. He graduated from Tufts University in 1977, then got a law degree from Boston College Law School in 1983. But the lawyer life wasn't for him. He even failed the Massachusetts bar exam and admitted he wasn't enthusiastic about it. He worked for a bit in politics for his uncle Senator Ted Kennedy and the Democratic National Committee. Later, though, he found a different calling, earning a master's certificate in clinical psychology from Harvard. This move hinted at the direction his life would eventually take, diving into subjects like addiction, something he knew all too well. For a while, he followed his father into acting. In the mid-'80s, Christopher spent over 2 decades in TV and film. You might have seen him in Frasier the O.C., or even General Hospital. He had a recurring role as Charlie Brent Jr. on All My Children from 1992 to 1995. Film-wise, he was in The Russia House, Oliver Stone's The Doors, and played a naval commander in 13 Days, a movie about the Cuban Missile Crisis. He even appeared in Terminator 3. Rise of the Machines, alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was married to his cousin, Maria Schreiber. While he worked steadily, his acting career didn't quite hit the Rat Pack heights of his father. It seemed acting became just one part of who he was, especially as his passion for writing and addiction advocacy grew, and that passion came from a dark place. Christopher's battle with addiction was long and brutal, spanning 17 years. It started when he was just 14, in 1969, the year after RFK's assassination, when he tried LSD. From there, it was a spiral into alcohol, cocaine, heroin, uppers, downers, basically, as he put it, any other drugs he could buy. In his incredibly honest memoir, Symptoms of Withdrawal, he talked not just about drug addiction, but also an addiction to celebrity, a craving for the validation that came with his famous name. He admitted to lying, messing up jobs and relationships, blowing through money, and using his family name to get what he wanted. In 1980, he was arrested for impersonating a doctor to get drugs. His family connections reportedly helped him avoid charges. It was a public secret. He even showed up high to a fundraiser for his uncle Teddy Kennedy, with pictures splashed in the papers. The devastating turning point came in 1984. His cousin, David Kennedy, one of RFK's sons, and someone Christopher had used drugs with, died of an overdose. That was the wake-up call. David's death forced Christopher to confront his own demons and get serious about recovery, and he did. By the time he published Symptoms of Withdrawal in 2005, he'd been sober for 2 decades. Around 2016, he marked 30 years clean. His recovery wasn't just about stopping drugs. It was a total internal shift. He took full responsibility for his past, blaming no one, even while admitting a family tendency towards addiction. He famously said, "My greatest liabilities have become my greatest assets, finding purpose in giving back." He even named his son, David Christopher Kennedy Lawford, after his late cousin, a powerful symbol of remembrance and a commitment to breaking the chain of addiction in his family. Authorship became his new platform. Symptoms of Withdrawal was a New York Times bestseller, a raw, honest look into the Kennedy and Lawford worlds, his addiction and his redemption. It was hailed as the first really candid memoir from a Kennedy family member. He went on to write other books on addiction and recovery, like Moments of Clarity, When Your Partner Has an Addiction and What Addicts Know. Christopher became a tireless activist. For 2 decades, he traveled the U.S. speaking openly about his journey. He worked with the UN, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and the World Health Organization. He was a consultant for care and treatment centers, sharing his story to help others. He didn't just talk. He helped set up an opiate dependency clinic in Boston and lectured on addiction at Harvard and Columbia. His message was one of hope, that overcoming great adversity is possible. Christopher was married 3 times and had 3 children with his first wife, Jeannie Olson, David, Savannah, and Matthew. He took immense pride in the fact that his children only knew him as a father in recovery. Sadly, Christopher Kennedy Lawford died on September 4, 2018, at 63. From a heart attack he suffered at a yoga studio in Vancouver, Canada. While he lived clean for decades, it's possible those 17 years of heavy drug use took a toll on his heart. Number 3. Sidney Malaya Kennedy. Lawford, born on August 25th or 26th, 1956 in Santa Monica. If Christopher's life was a public roller coaster, Sidney's story is one of remarkable discretion. She too was born into that unique blend of Kennedy political clout and Lawford Hollywood charm. Her childhood was steeped in these 2 worlds. Her father was a Rat Pack star, her mother a Kennedy. She grew up with her 3 siblings, Christopher, Victoria, and Robin. A significant event in her youth was her parents' divorce in 1966. While her brother Christopher later embraced a very public life, Sidney chose a different route. On September 17, 1983, Sidney married James Peter McKelvey Sr. at a ceremony in Centerville, Massachusetts, attended by many Kennedys and celebrity friends. They had children, some sources say 8, others list 4 sons, James Jr., Christopher, Patrick, and Anthony. What's clear is their dedication to keeping their children largely out of the public spotlight that often trails the Kennedy family. It's interesting to see how legacy continues, though. Her son, Christopher K. McKelvey, served in the U.S. military, and Sidney and her husband were photographed awaiting his return from Operation Enduring Freedom in 2013. And one of her grandsons, also named Christopher McKelvey, is reportedly involved with K Ventures, a venture capital firm, and serves as a trustee at the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. Foundation. So the commitment to service and family philanthropy continues, even if more quietly. Sidney's own godmother was Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, highlighting the close-knit nature of the family. Professionally, Sidney reportedly pursued a career in nursing. It's said she worked as a nursing assistant in college and later became one of the first new graduate nurses in the MDI hospital emergency room. This choice is quite telling. The Kennedys are known for public service. Often in politics are grand philanthropic gestures. Her father and brother were actors, very public figures. Nursing, especially in an ER, is demanding, direct, hands-on service, often performed far from any spotlight. It suggests a deep personal commitment to making a tangible difference in people's lives, on her own terms, separate from the traditional paths of her famous families. While she's maintained a private life, Sidney has appeared at family events and charitable functions over the years. She attended the Kennedy Child Study Center benefit in 1991 with her mother and sister Robin, and was seen with her cousin Caroline Kennedy at an RFK pro-celebrity tennis tournament. More recently, in 2019, she traveled to Ireland for the opening of an exhibition about a long-standing Kennedy family friend. Her participation seems to be supportive of family causes rather than forging her own distinct public philanthropic identity. She also joined a family trip to Cuba in 2002 for the 40th anniversary of the Cuban Missile Crisis, showing engagement with pivotal family historical moments. Living with the Kennedy Lawford name is a massive undertaking. The intense public fascination, the weight of history, it's a lot. Sidney's relatively low public profile, especially compared to her brother or many Kennedy cousins, is striking. She doesn't give many interviews, write memoirs, or seek media attention. Number 2. Victoria Frances Lockford. Born November 4, 1958, in Santa Monica, was the third child. Like her siblings, she was immediately immersed in the twin legacies of Kennedy politics and Lockford stardom. Her christening in Washington, D.C., attended by her uncle, then Senator John F. Kennedy, was an early sign of the Kennedy dynasty's deep influence on her life. Her parents, Peter Lockford of Rat Pack fame, and Patricia Kennedy, sister to JFK, RFK, and Ted Kennedy, created a childhood world where Hollywood glamour met East Coast political power. Victoria grew up with her siblings, Christopher, Sidney, and Robin, witnessing the family's triumphs like her uncle's presidency, and enduring profound tragedies like the assassinations of JFK and RFK during her formative years. These experiences, unfolding under an intense global spotlight, might have shaped a desire for a more private, controlled personal life. Victoria married Robert B.B. Pender, Jr. Together, they had 3 daughters: Alexandra Lockford Pender, born 1988, Caroline Patricia Pender, born 1990, and Victoria Rose Pender, born 1993. In various biographical entries, Victoria is consistently identified as a homemaker. This suggests her primary focus after marriage was her family and raising her children, a path that diverges from many Kennedy women of her generation who pursued highly visible careers. While Victoria herself has maintained a low public profile, her husband and eldest daughter have more public-facing careers. Robert B.B. Pender, Jr. is a co-founder of Venture Global LNG, a major player in the liquefied natural gas market. He's had a distinguished career in law and energy, previously heading the project and international finance group at Hogan and Hartson, now Hogan Levels, and even had early roles on a U.S. Senate committee and in the White House counsel's office. Their eldest daughter, Alexandra Lockford Pender, has built a career in advocacy and communications, notably with Kids in Need of Defense, Key Ion, an organization providing legal services to unaccompanied refugee and immigrant children. Her work, which includes roles like Director of Digital Media, reflects a commitment to social justice, echoing the Kennedy family's philanthropic ethos. Alexandra even interned for her great-uncle, Senator Edward M. Kennedy. Less public information is available about the careers of her younger daughters, Caroline and Victoria Rose Pender. Victoria's own public appearances have been infrequent, usually linked to Kennedy family events or commemorations, like the annual wreath-laying ceremony for President Kennedy at Arlington National Cemetery. She was also part of her sister, Sidney's wedding party in 1983. These appearances suggest a supportive role within the family's public activities rather than a personal public platform. There isn't much information about her leading her own major philanthropic initiatives, which further points to a life lived with a greater degree of privacy. Number 1. Robin Elizabeth Lockford, born July 2, 1961 in Santa Monica. Her godfather was her uncle, then U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, and her godmother was Veronica Rocky Cooper, widow of actor Gary Cooper, a perfect illustration of her family's twin worlds. Robin reportedly graduated from the United Nations International School, UNESCO, in New York around 1979. This global environment might have influenced her future interests. She is consistently identified in various sources as a marine biologist and environmentalist, supposedly based in New York City. A 1999 Time magazine piece mentions her as Robin Elizabeth Lockford, 1961 to present, a marine biologist who lives in New York City. Robin's public appearances, especially documented ones, seem to be largely from her earlier years and are almost always connected to family. She attended Kennedy Family Gatherings, a U.S. Army Special Forces event honoring President Kennedy, movie premieres with her mother, and fundraisers for her uncle, Senator Ted Kennedy. She was also seen at charitable events like the Arts for the Handicapped benefit with family members. Many of these appearances were in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. More recent public activity is less evident in the easily accessible records, suggesting she may have embraced even greater privacy later in life. There's little direct information about her personal philanthropic activities or specific activism. Their lives show that even with a shared monumental inheritance, the journey to selfhood is always individual, always personal. Each of Patricia Kennedy Lawford's children, in their own distinct way, answered the question of how to live with such a name,